you can't trade Alex Steen.
And Regina, or Regina if she were a town in Canada, she responds with, why not Bennington?
Real men do drink pumpkin beer.
Get ready to hear some noise tonight.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Haley Wickenheiser, and this is Let's Go Blues Radio.
This is Eddie Garcia from the Fox Sports Radio Network and co-host of the Puck Podcast, and you're listening to Let's Go Blues Radio.
Hi guys, this is Erica Weston with Fox Sports Midwest, and you're listening to my favorite St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio.
You're just seconds away from Let's Go Blues Radio.
Hi everybody, this is Ken Wilson. Once upon a time I broadcast blues hockey. I always listen to Let's Go Blues Radio. It's everything you'll want as a blues fan. Oh, baby.
And welcome to Season 9, Episode 4 of Let's Go Blues Radio. This is franchise episode number 270, the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio, and we are recording live on September 22nd, 2020. If you're tuning in on Facebook or YouTube Live right now, remember to interact with the show using the chat on either platform. And if you're podcasting, well, thanks for tuning in. So we've got a very special episode, as you can tell. No Kurt, no Bill today, but I do have a very special guest, which we will get to in just a moment. First, I wanted to go ahead and announce the winner of our big giveaway right here at the top of the show. Yes, a big giveaway for some friends of the show that made our jerseys, all black hockey sticks. The hat here, this is going to go to a lucky winner. So those of you who just saw the open, that is a bunch of Blues fans celebrating the big Stanley Cup win from 2019. And I'm sorry to have a guy from Massachusetts on the show as we celebrated that. And we had a little contest on social media to send in your videos of you celebrating, and we would pick a couple to use in the open, and one of those lucky people would win a free hat. So I have selected the winner. First of all, thanks to everyone who submitted, and a special thanks to Dave Lipscomb, STL Blues 21, and Original Dante YT. Those are their names on Twitter. Those are the three we selected, and the winner of our contest is actually Original Dante YT. So congratulations, Original Dante. I will be in touch with you very soon, and I will be sending you your hat as well as a couple other goodies. But again, thank you to everybody who participated, who retweeted, and who definitely took a part in the giveaway. So real quick, when we get to our guest, I do want to give my beer of the episode. No guest, I am not an alcoholic. This is just something we do. I think I had this one last time that I did a live show, but Schlafly Oktoberfest. That is a local St. Louis brewery, and it is one of the best Oktoberfests that I've had. So to anybody listening, maybe in Massachusetts or who's tuning into the show who normally wouldn't, if you're ever in the St. Louis area, Schlafly Brewery is one of the best in the Midwest, and they're right here in St. Louis. But I think I've teased enough talking about our guest. Our guest today, his name is Steve Forni, public address announcer for the Springfield Thunderbirds, and a part-time, I guess, announcer for the Boston Bruins as well. Steve, thank you very much for joining the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, so again, if anybody is listening to the show right now, feel free to jump in on the YouTube or Facebook chat if you have questions for Steve. Steve's going to be kind of our resident Thunderbirds aficionado, I guess, because we're all a little interested in the newest NHL team affiliated with the Blues as they have moved from San Antonio to Springfield, which was the former Florida Panthers affiliate. But Steve, I want to ask you more personally, how long have you been with the Springfield Thunderbirds?
Yeah, my first year with the Springfield hockey organization was actually when they were still the Springfield Falcons. And that was basically one of our lowest points. At that point, we had been cast off to the Arizona Coyotes organization. As you can imagine, Springfield, Arizona, not exactly near each other. And the marketing fell apart. The team was in last place. The attendance was horrible. and it was a perfect excuse to jettison the team out to Tucson, which is now your Tucson Roadrunners. Knowing Springfield and sort of our mentality here of never give up, and we're sort of in it for ourselves. A bunch of local business owners said this is not going to happen. We are not going to lose hockey here in Springfield. And they found a way to purchase the Portland Pirates, move them to Springfield, which was the Florida affiliate. And everything changed. All the ownership groups were all local business owners. The now president of the organization, who was calling all the shots, was a graduate of a school in Springfield. All of it was Springfield oriented and created, and for us as a community, that was such an important part. Just that alone was such a draw. And the last 5 years have gotten increasingly better and better and better in terms of turnout, in terms of fan interaction, in terms of, again, the throwback nights. I don't know if any of the Jersey nerds out there saw the Springfield Isotopes Simpsons things we did last year. Massive hit. The creativity coming out of the front office is really through the roof. In the last 5 years, I've seen everything from, any of the playoff shots that you see like on NHL Instagram and stuff like that. They're all taken by our former guy who was in Springfield. He was our photographer guy, got a job with the NHL, moved to New York City, started crushing it, and they sent him out to Edmonton. The amount of people that we've seen sort of graduate from the AHL to better things out of Springfield, to me, is a representation of the entire approach they've taken over the last 5 years. In terms of getting here, from what I've understood, we wanted to get a deal done with Florida very badly to lock in this situation to avoid the Arizona Coyotes fiasco. And they didn't really hear back. And so we started reaching out to other places. And St. Louis, from what I gather, you guys have sort of been going through the same thing. Is it San Antonio this year? Is it Chicago this year? Is it the Worcester? What are we doing? Where's our affiliate? We've sort of been that way for the last, I'll call it 15 years. And I think what we're looking at here is St. Louis saying, we just want an affiliate that's consistent, that's not going to go anywhere, that's easy to get to, and that wants us there. And Springfield is saying literally the same thing about the NHL organization. So I think we have a real good match here made that could benefit long-term both organizations, both cities.
So I mentioned Florida was the most recent affiliate. You mentioned the Coyotes. Have they been affiliated with anybody else in the NHL in that time that you can remember?
The real primo time that we had here. I mean, you can go back to the Springfield Indians. We were with the Islanders and winning Calder Cups. But we really hit the stride was the Springfield Falcons when we were filled with Danny Brières and Devin Dubnyks, and we were with Tampa and we were with Edmonton for a while. And again, geographically, it didn't make a ton of sense, but at least it was consistent. It is funny being with somebody like Florida. You get, 5 years, you get to know all these kids, all these prospects. They're all great kids. You sort of are all of a sudden, Florida's right. I'm a Bruins fan. They're right in our division, and you got a little bit of a sweet spot for them, a little bit. But, and again, I'm not going to pick on them, but I mean, you out there in St. Louis can probably put a pretty good gauge on how the Florida Panthers run themselves. So,
yes.
There was a lot of disappointment, and there's a lot, you follow Florida Panther fans and they're all saying, I can't believe this guy in Springfield was drafted after Matthew Barzal or before Matthew Barzal. Well, I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah.
So it's been a little hit or miss, but the key here is, and I think the biggest thing from our organization is that win or lose, people are leaving our games happy with the product. Like, nobody is being like, I can't believe they lost, I'm never coming to another game again. They're like, well, they lost, but you know what? The food was great. The beers were cheap. My kids got to do X, Y, and Z. Everybody was happy. We're coming again next Friday. And as you guys know, that's really how we all stay sustainable at this level. So, to me, it all starts with that at the top. And then if you can get that situated, regardless of what the on ice product is, you should be able to make it work.
Yeah, I was reading an article earlier that apparently, I think it was last year, you eclipsed, the Thunderbirds eclipsed 5,000 fans on average every year, or every game. And that's not an easy task to do in a minor league team. And you just mentioned some of the perks that comes with going to a Thunderbirds game, and a lot of Blues fans like to travel to see their AHL team. Back when it was Peoria, it was very simple. Peoria, Illinois, it was about 2.5 hour drive. Then it became Chicago. Then it was San Antonio. Now it's Springfield. So maybe it's a little bit more of a drive or a flight, but I think fans will still might be wanting to come out to see some of these young Blues players play. What can they expect at the arena atmosphere?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, you can fly right into Bradley International Airport in Hartford. It's in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, and it's 20 minutes, not even, to Springfield. We just recently got MGM Springfield, which is a beautiful casino in downtown, has a hotel. And, again, like, if people don't know geographically, like, Springfield is the redheaded stepchild of the state. Like, it's Boston by the shore, Worcester's in the middle of the state, and then we're Springfield, and we get, no public funding. We don't get our roads, we don't get our potholes fixed. Like, they don't really care about us. So we've always sort of been in this together for ourselves. And it's crazy to see MGM, right? This was a big, massive deal when it came to Springfield. And all they want to do is have you eat at, Nadim's restaurant in downtown. They want you to go to Red Rose Pizza. They want you to go to all these other establishments. And that's how I think we keep it sustainable. But I'll tell you what, you can fly into Bradley. You can get a hotel at the Marriott in downtown Springfield, which is a block and a half from the casino. On Friday nights, you can go to a hockey game, bring your ticket stub to the casino after the game, and get $10 in free play, which I don't qualify for, and I think is a little unfortunate. I'm thinking I want to get that fixed next season. I'm going to put that in a clause in my contract. We just try to have fun. Like, I think that's such an important part, and I sort of said that earlier, but like, to us, it's if we get blown out 7-1, we still want people walking away and leaving the game thinking that they enjoyed themselves. And like, and it's not that, like, you don't care about the team, we don't care about the product. Like, it's not it. It's that, again, the beers are reasonably priced, and the lights are fun, and the sound's fun, and you got our mascot Boomer coming out of the ATV shooting T-shirts into the crowd, like. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned Nate Costa, our team president, like, because my full-time job is in radio. I'm a radio producer. I work at different stations, and we have some sort of musical connections, but I'm really a nobody. And he'll come up to me and he'll be like, "How do we get Eddie Vedder at a game?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "How do we get Eddie Vedder?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, you buy
Just
the
call him
Atlanta
up.
Hawks? Like, I have no idea how to get Eddie Vedder. But you know what? He has these big. If you're not thinking Eddie Vedder, then you can't get the next guy underneath. Do you know what I mean? And like,
Right.
And so that's the mindset you have to have. Like, having David Ortiz come and smash little mini things into the crowd. That's a big get for Springfield. It costs money. That's a big get for us. And we weren't getting that 5-10 years ago. And so I think that it starts there, works its way down, and I think we're in a really good spot. It's a place that I'm very happy working for, and I am very happy with the progression that the organization is making.
So, are you a native to Springfield?
I am. I've basically lucked out. I'm in a town called Agawam, home of Six Flags, which if you come to visit in the summer, go to Six Flags, check it out. But no, I've unbelievably lucked out. I'm 5 minutes away. I've had terrible jobs my entire life. I went to a broadcasting school for 5 weeks, lucked into radio. The guy who's been doing Springfield hockey for 35 years had enough. They called me, and I've been in that seat ever since. Same thing with the Bruins, happened last fall, right around this time. The guy said he didn't want to come back. I got a tryout. I went, did pretty good, did about 10 games. They said they'd let me know about this season. So, like, I'm beyond grateful. But I mean, yeah, like a part of it is, I had my birthday party at Springfield hockey games, like, and for me, like, I'm 34. I have a 3-year-old son. Like, I can't wait till he can have his birthday party at those games too. You know what I mean? It's obviously the building's different, environment's different, but to be, to have that sort of youthful part of it for me. And again, even like when I took over his job, I was so nervous. But at the same time, he was literally the only voice I knew. He'd been doing it for 35 years. I'm 34. So like when I was 8, he was the guy. You know what I mean? So like that was all I knew. So it made it a little bit easier. But I can't tell you how cool it is to be from this small town, to be able to get that sort of in with that organization that I've been sort of following and with my whole life is pretty cool. It's fun to be a part of.
So you mentioned a couple times here the Boston connection with Springfield. Now, obviously, everybody remembers the 2019 Stanley Cup final. There was a little bit of hatred between the Blues and the Bruins. Now, I'm sure you've got your finger a little bit on the dial of the fan base there in Springfield. When the news came down that the Blues were going to be the new affiliate, was it a, hey, at least we got an NHL affiliate, or was it more, oh, man, does it have to be the Blues?
Well, it was a couple things, because it still does hurt, and like honestly, we totally underestimated you guys, because we were looking at it like there's no way the Bruins can win the Stanley Cup Finals when they are going to have to play Crosby, Ovechkin. We're going to have to do all this to get there, and if you remember the road to get there, I think Columbus beat Washington. Crosby got nagged. The Bruins, the whole path was wide open. They had to beat Carolina and Columbus, and you're in the Stanley Cup Finals. And guess what? You don't have to play any of those heavyweights. You got St. Louis, who fired their head coach and was kind of a mess. And like Jordan Binnington was playing for Providence the year before in Springfield. So beautiful. This is a cakewalk. And I think the Bruins now, this is 2 years in a row. We saw it a couple of weeks ago against Tampa. Physically overmatched, and they say this game isn't physical anymore. I mean, it wasn't just on the back end. I mean, it was up front too. There was no ability to get the puck in the zone when you're trying to work the puck quickly through the neutral zone on tired legs against big beefy bodies. It's just not going to work. And it's weird to be the big bad Bruins and you're filled with Torrey Krugs and Jake DeBrusks. It's a little different than what you normally have, but I mean, it did hurt. And in terms of the fan base, yeah, there was a little bit of that stinging, and there was also a little bit of like, sometimes you almost like that little bit of the teams that aren't very good, because you're getting high draft picks, you're getting major prospects, and for a lot of us, we were like, well, St. Louis is good, right? You guys are drafting like 29th, 30th, like you're not getting these number 8, 9, 10 picks. What's up with that? But there are a lot of players that I've researched and looked into, and I've been like, oh, you guys have drafted actually pretty well. And I mean, when you look at the makeup of St. Louis's roster and how many of those guys, I mean, it's true all across the league, but how many of those guys, whether it's Sammy Blais or some of those guys that took at least the 2 or 3 years to develop to make it work, that's absolutely exciting. And then the flip side of stinking and having low draft picks is, usually you have an organization that if you're good, the organization has their head on straight. They're well coached. They're well, they draft well. They have a good attitude in the locker room. Like the Islanders thing, that doesn't surprise me at all. Everyone's talking I can't believe the Islanders did it. I've been watching these guys in Bridgeport, and with the coaching staff that they have in Bridgeport and the coaching staff they have in the Islanders, and the sort of precedent that they sent all the way down from the top down to the minor league organization. I'm not surprised at all. These guys have been playing like this for the last 4 or 5 years. Scrappy, hardworking, grindstone, grimy goals in your face. Like, that didn't surprise me at all. So, it's amazing what you can see at that level. And I think it'll be interesting to see a Western Conference team come to the East and play a whole bunch of teams that it doesn't really know very well. The rivalries are getting a little chippy there for a little while, so it'll be interesting to see some new blood in the mix.
Yeah, I think it was Pat Maroon after the Blues won the Cup. They were still there on Boston ice, and he even said that something about how the speed game's gone. It's all about, who said the checking game was gone, something like that. And it was like, kind of made people think like, yeah, I mean, the Blues were a big, heavy team that just wore teams down. And I think that was the belief that we were going to see again this year with Vancouver when they played them in the playoffs was, well, the longer this series go, the more it's going to favor the Blues. Obviously, things didn't turn out for the Blues this season, but yeah, last season, Boston, a very quick team, I mean, yeah, they got guys like Brad Marchand that can put up with the physical stuff. Obviously, guys like Zdeno Chara and Torrey Krug, guys like that. But yeah, it definitely swung in the Blues' favor in terms of, I think they just wore them down. And so just seeing from what you've seen and kind of talking about the Bruins themselves, did you see them kind of maybe try to play a new game plan this year after losing the Stanley Cup final to the Blues?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, not really. I mean, they sort of put out the same kind of roster, the same guys. And I mean, when you get to the Stanley Cup finals, why change anything, right? But even the trades they made at the deadline. I mean, they brought in Brett Ritchie, which didn't work. Then they were like, well, let's go get the other Ritchie, Nick Ritchie. That didn't work. And then they brought in Andre Kasha, who is again not necessarily this big guy. And then who do you lose to in Tampa? Who's in Tampa now? Patrick Maroon. So, again, Torrey Krug's going to be a free agent. The word here is he's probably going to go to a place like Detroit. He played at Michigan State. He's from the state. Detroit's got a boatload of money, and they need help on the back end. And I think there is that belief that, yeah, you have to get big. I mean, and again, it's not even just getting big. And one of the things I noticed doing a PA announcing a Bruins game, because I sit, dead center ice in the TD Garden. It's unbelievable. And they're playing Carolina. It was a regular season game. And you look at Carolina's defense and, Dougie Hamilton's 6'4", Jacob Slavin's 6'4". They got Joel Edmondson, who he was in there, I believe, from St. Louis. And I'll put him aside for this point. But most of those guys, they're all 6'3", 6'4", and they don't want to hit you. Dougie Hamilton doesn't want to hit you. Like, dude, you're 6'3", hit somebody. So from my perspective, looking at the Bruins, like, if Torrey Krug's this great offensive guy, which he is, at 5'9", find somebody who can give me, 80% of his offense who's 6'2".
Yep.
Just having that little bit of size. And I love the kid's heart. I love his effort. I love the way he moves the puck. He's great in the locker room. But every offseason, I'm like, darn, he didn't grow 4 inches. So, and then you look at Carolina, who's just got all these massive trees, and they're so soft. So what good are they? So it's, I think getting back to a little bit to that big bad Bruins, a little bit of attitude, go find, a diet Milan Lucic somewhere that can kind of come back and at least give you a little bit of punch. I mean, we all unanimously don't like Tom Wilson, right? None of us can stand Tom Wilson.
Yes.
I'll take that guy on my team tomorrow. I'll take him tomorrow.
I agree with you. So talking a bit more about the Springfield Thunderbirds, almost the Springfield Falcons. But sorry, my cat is loving to get in the shot right now. Let me get rid of him.
Love me. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. I'll ship him to you if you want him. So yes, talking about the Thunderbirds a little bit more. The Florida Panthers, we mentioned, was the most recent affiliate. The player that came up with them and Anthony Greco, I believe is how you say his name.
Greco.
Yeah. So we'll talk about Springfield hosting the 2019 All-Star Classic in a minute, but he set the record for the fastest skater at the event in AHL history with 13.251. Plus, he is the team's all-time leading scorer with 157 points in 261 games. Is it fair to say he's probably one of the greatest players consistently to play for Springfield, or would you name it to somebody else?
Well, history will. We have. I mean, the history in Springfield of hockey is pretty ridiculous. We have the Springfield Hockey Heritage Society, which will say, well, back in Eddie Shore's days. I think that in terms of the new Thunderbirds regime, since we've become the Thunderbirds, no doubt about it. I do think that we have a bit of maybe a smaller ice here in Springfield when it comes to the fastest skaters. I mean, he is. I always say with the AHL level, like the NHL guys stand out. They're always a little faster, a little quicker. Their shots are a little harder than everybody else. And Greco didn't have a lot of those things, but his speed was unbelievable. And it wasn't the speed; it was the ability to get there in 1 or 2 strides as opposed to 3 or 4 strides. Penalty killing, the kid was ridiculous. And then of course, it's been nice to have a guy like Paul Thompson is now on his second stint. He was on a second stint here with Springfield. And I've seen more guys, he's a right wing. I've seen more centers and left wingers play with Paul Thompson as young kids, learn, and then watch their careers take off. And so I think that's a big part of it too, is a guy like Greco, again, undrafted out of Ohio State. They did have to trade him last season, which was really tough to swallow. But was an absolute pleasure. And I don't mean to bring the mood down, but Greco, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, did lose his father, unfortunately, who was a firefighter in New York City during 9/11 and had all kinds of horrible things that were affected from 9/11, and that unfortunately took his life at least, like I said, in the last couple months. So if you're listening, Greco family, thinking about you. I love you guys. Thanks for all your contributions to Springfield.
Yeah, he's now at the San Jose Barracuda, I believe, still under contract, which is part of the San Jose Sharks organization, obviously. So hopefully we'll see him in NHL jersey one day. But yeah, so it's interesting because we've talked to a couple of people from San Antonio and Peoria and other different AHL organizations, and it's always interesting because you mentioned you see some NHL guys that'll pop down there and you're like, okay, this kid's going to last 10 games down here, and then he's going up to the NHL. So it's got to look, it's a different dynamic. And you being a Bruins guy as well, because you see a guy like Greco play in 261 games, and it's easy to say, well, that guy's one of the best this organization's ever had. But then you've also had guys like Tomas Jurko, Jared McCann, and then in goal, Reto Berra, Michael Hutchinson, St. Louis native Mike McKenna. Guys like that have played for the organization. So I always like to ask this question to anybody who follows the HL teams in terms of the fans and what they root for when they see a guy like a McCann or even like a Hutchinson. Are they rooting for them to make the NHL, or are they kind of like, I hope they just stay here and provide us some decent hockey for a while?
It's funny. I think it's kind of the age-old question, right? I mean, we had a goalie the last 2 or 3 years, Sam Montembeault, young kid, top prospect down in Florida, 6'4", boyish smile, and he gets called up and I had season ticket holders behind me who would ask me before the game, is he starting tonight in Florida? Is he starting? Is he getting the start tonight in Florida? I mean, so it's usually more like, okay, well, how are we going to fill this gap? How are we going to, or it's going into it. I mean, a guy like Owen Tippett, who is a top prospect, absolutely crushing it. And you talk to season ticket holders, and the question is, when are they going to call Tippett up? Like, what are they waiting for? Like, this kid's crushing. Like, get him out of here. What is he doing here still? So there's a little bit of that too. And when we've reached points where we've seen organizations get kind of decimated and everybody gets called up, I think there's that reasonable understanding of like, this might be a little challenging for a little while, but we'll figure it out. And if we lose 10 straight, but our guys get called up and play really well, that's fine. We'll deal with it that way, But the Bruins in particular, and it's been bizarre because I do follow them, but I mean that, Charlie McAvoy's first ever shift was in Springfield for Providence, and whether it's Sean Corrali and Nola Chari and there was a while where Frank Vetrano and David Pasternak were both on their power play unit, which was borderline unfair. So, I mean, it's been only 5-6 years, and I mean, even still, I'm watching Tampa, and I've seen half that roster in Syracuse. You know, it's the best developmental league in sports, and the teams that take it the most serious, you know, on the Eastern side, again, Hershey with Washington, Syracuse and Tampa, Boston and Providence. If you can really establish that minor league system and get it going. And I mean, again, those three teams that I mentioned, you know, with all due respect to our new relationship, Hershey and Washington have been together since like the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Providence and Boston, they're 15 minutes away from each other. I mean, those are established institutions, and I think the more you can get that establishment and invest in that minor league product, you're going to reap the investment. You're going to reap the returns come a year or two down the road.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a conversation here when the Vegas Golden Knights again took over the Blues' AHL affiliate. This was the second time, in case you were unaware. They first stole the Chicago Wolves from the Blues. They moved to San Antonio, and then they decided to buy the Rampage. So look out. They might be on Springfield's radar. They might be buying them up too. But so after all that, you know, the conversation was the Blues just need to buy an AHL team. They just need to own it themselves, control it. That way there's no worry about, you know, guys questionable whether they're going to get playing time, whether that AHL team is going to sign somebody who's going to get more playing time than the Blues prospects. So obviously there's an affiliation agreement here. It's not a matter of the Blues buying an AHL team. In the past, just what you've seen before, what obviously, you know, Springfield's big thing is, you know, selling tickets. That's every organization wants to sell tickets, get fans in the stands. Do you see them being a team that says, we've got this guy established, they're going to play over Blues prospects? Or do you think they want the Blues prospects to come in and shine and kind of steal the show and be the new face of the Springfield Thunderbirds?
Well, and it's interesting, and I think a lot of those decisions probably happen a bit above their, like, you know, with the Florida situation, you know, we had our own GM, Eric Joyce, but I mean, he basically, I mean, he would basically have all your prospects, but I thought he always did a really nice job of signing the 28, 29, 30, 31-year-old Tommy Cross, Paul Thompson, Rob O'Gara. You always, you know, sent a Bobby Farnham, who, you know, if anybody knows anything about Bobby Farnham, he'll play 6 shifts a game. They'll be the most electrifying 6 shifts, and then you'll go home and be like, boy, that 26 was something. You know, and he didn't really do anything except get a 5-minute major, but boy, was he electric. And like the nicest guy I'll ever meet. But I think that having the veteran presence is so key. And I think that if you were putting your prospect on the second line power play because you need the old veterans on the first unit power play to show them how it's done, and they can watch it from the bench and say, this is how we do it here. I think there is benefit to that. I will say, unfortunately, I'm going on this will be my 6th season, and I've yet to do a playoff game. So I don't know what the, you know, it's April. We're 3 points out. We have 5 games left. What is our approach to handling the roster, key game situations? You know, we just haven't really had the chance yet, unfortunately. So I know it's a different organization. It might be a very different approach, but I think that having the veterans is so key. And I mean, again, like our first year was when you meant, you know, Mike McKenna. I mean, having Mike McKenna to be the face of your franchise, a guy who was in Springfield maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, he certainly got around. He'll be the first one to tell you that. But to be able to be like, hey, remember Mike McKenna? He's back. Come to our games. Like that was useful. So it depends on the position, and I think it really depends on how the NHL team wants to sort of handle it down there.
Yeah, no, and that's probably what Blues fans wanted to hear. And yeah, Mike McKenna, we're big fans of Mike McKenna on this show. Like we said, St. Louis native, just a true journeyman and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet for anybody who's had the opportunity to meet him. But you mentioned earlier something that when this was the first thing that popped in my head when I saw the new AHL agreement with this team, the Springfield Isotopes. I am a massive Simpsons fan. Literally grew up with that show. I'm same age, well, a little older than you. I'm 35, and so I've seen every episode. The baseball team. I think when I was a kid, I had a Springfield Isotope shirt, jersey, I think is what they call them. And so when that happened, I was all for it. I thought it was great. The NHL promoted it, which a lot of times, I mean, I think you'll agree that the NHL doesn't really maybe promote their minor league product as well as they can, but they definitely jumped on that. And to me, that was one of the best stories to come out of the AHL in the last 10 to 15 years. How did that go over in Springfield? Was that a huge marketing gamble that paid off for Springfield?
Massive. Absolutely massive. I mean, one of the biggest I think they've come up with. And, I gotta be honest. I don't know why. Like, my mom wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons, but she let me watch Seinfeld.
That doesn't make any sense.
I know. I'm like, okay, so I won't be Bart Simpson. I'll be George Costanza. Like, what are you trying to do here, Ma? Like, I don't get it. But anyway, so like, I admittedly am not like the biggest, but I mean, I had friends who I hadn't even talked to who have been like, hey man, I'm living in Syracuse now. Can you get me a shirt? Like, and I think they're still selling stuff. I think they even just released another round of merch, and like, absolute home run. I mean, the jerseys came out outstanding. I mean, with the row of donut sprinkles across the bottom, like, they popped, they looked great. It'll be very interesting to see. And again, I don't speak for the team here, but I mean, just based on the way that the world we're in right now and where 2020 is at, our other big one is the Springfield Indians, which is, that was our initial thing. That's, Indian motorcycles were created in Westfield. Like, that is like a Western Mass Indian motorcycles, Indian Springfield Indians. And we brought those back, which forever was like the white whale. Like, Springfield doesn't have the rights to the Indians. We can't bring that back. How are we going to do this? Well, again, new ownership, and Nate Costa said, we can't get the rights. What is it going to cost? Let's pay for it. We're getting them. And we're going to put them on the old Islanders jerseys. We're going to put them on the old Hartford Whalers, blue and green. We're going to wear them. We're going to sell them. And they flew. And I told him, we were talking to their merch guy. He goes, oh, I ordered so much stuff. I said, whatever you ordered, double it. Because this community, again, it's tradition around here. We're isolated from Boston. They don't care about us. So we have to keep it all inside. And that's the kind of stuff that really hit a home run. And I mean, I mentioned earlier, how do I get Eddie Vedder? Like, that's the approach down here. We want Eddie Vedder, and we want David Ortiz, and we want you two. Bring them all over. We'll have them play at intermission. I mean, like, that's what we're trying to do here.
That's awesome to hear. So first of all, I want to give a call out to a friend here on our YouTube chat, Jimmy Anderson. Sorry, no question for you. He just tells me that I'm looking snazzy, and he says, cheers. Cheers to you too, sir. Good to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And but yeah, so again, we're here with Steve Forni of the Springfield Thunderbirds. I didn't ask you. I'm assuming I'm saying your name correctly. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Just making sure. But so yeah, you mentioned earlier the Blues prospects that are going to be coming in. You did a little research on them, and I know that people above you have done research as well. Is there one guy that's standing out to you in terms of what prospect that's going to be coming in? I mean, obviously the names Klim Kostin, Ville Husso are probably the two bigger ones, which Husso may be in the NHL to start the year. But is there one guy that maybe stands out to you or the organization that's very excited to get marketing around?
Well, it's a good question, and I'm not sure. Two things. Number one, who sells, and number two, who's going to, like you said, get that promotion who we're not even going to see. Some of the names I keep seeing are is it Jacob Wallman? Mm-hmm. Everybody's very excited about him. To me, at this level, I always think it starts in goal and goes out, because if you have a bad goalie at this league, like, it's tough. It's a tough go. So I mean, I would love to have Ville Husso. I know that the depth was at that position was pretty high, although Jake Allen got traded. So I haven't really updated the depth chart on that, but I think that a lot of times, I think that, one of the interesting things that I've noticed here is I don't think we've ever really up to this point marketed a player. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like, one of the things we've really promoted is the mascot. And when you think about it, if you're looking for consistency, the names, the faces, the players all change. You know what doesn't change? The mascot.
Yeah.
That dude is always there. He's always going to be with the kids. He's always going to be at the birthday parties. So, I'm not sure from a marketing perspective if it's the players or if it's the logo, the name, the product, the mascot. I mean, my hope is I want those Wayne Gretzky era jerseys with the red across the belly that you guys wore. Just slap the Thunderbird right on that thing and give it to me. And again, we'll sell a zillion of them. So I think the marketing approach is a lot more there, because again, like, our fans, I mean, we have the diehard fans, but I think our main attraction, and again, I don't work in the front office. Maybe I should say I don't work in the front office for the team, but again, this is my approach sitting where I sit for 5 years, is we want the families that have maybe never been to a game, the families who haven't been in 2 weeks. We want the kids on Friday nights who are looking for something to do, and again, right, pre-pandemic, of course, but we're looking for Friday night, we want groups of 10, 22-year-olds. And quite honestly, they might not even know that the Thunderbirds are affiliated with the Blues, but they're gonna come, they're gonna have fun, they're gonna spend a little bit of money, but they're not gonna get their wallets stolen out from underneath them, and hopefully they come back again next Friday. And like, I think that's what I've noticed is the real key to sustainability when it comes to this level is finding, you have the hardcore fans. It's everybody else. How do you bring them in? How do you keep them? And how do you bring them back? Oh, did I lose Jeff? Where are you, Jeff? Come back. Come back. Come back. Oh, come back. Where'd he go? Come back. Come back. Well, I mean, I don't know if Jeff, because see, Jeff, you got to realize I work in radio.
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
I was going to say, because I work in radio, so I'll fill for you. I mean, I'll just talk forever. That's all I do is talk.
Just vamp.
I just talk. One thing I did want to mention, though, because I heard you mention we were over 5,000 fans, and you thought it was a good number. And it is a good number, but something to keep in mind is our capacity here is only 6,300. So, the XL Center in Hartford that held the Whalers. That holds Green Day. We don't get Green Day. We get 6,300 people. We're lucky to get Disney on Ice. So that's why when I look at attendance, one of the things that always bothers me is I wish it was a percentage, because you see 6,000, it's always towards the middle, towards the bottom. But if it was, 5,000, but if it was a percentage, and don't ask me to do the math, that number's probably a lot higher, just based on the fact that it's such a small arena. And I'll tell you what, when we get that place packed, it's nice and loud. It's a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, if you can pack that with 5,000 people, 6,300 max, I mean, that's going to echo off the walls pretty well. So I can imagine that's a pretty nice atmosphere to work in.
That's fun.
Yeah. So in terms of, now you mentioned the Providence Bruins a couple times, and obviously it's weird probably because, like you said, a lot of people in Springfield are Boston Bruins fans. Are the Providence Bruins their would you say rival, or is it kind of like a budding rival? I mean, what's the relationship like there?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and this is why I don't think this league will ever die here in the Northeast, because the geographical distance from, and again, just keeping it smaller from, Providence, Springfield, Hartford, Connecticut, which is 25 minutes away, Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is 45, and that's your Sound Tigers, your Wolfpack, the Providence Bruins, and then it's the three Pennsylvania teams, Wilkes-Barre, Hershey, and Lehigh Valley, which is your Philadelphia Flyers. So, I mean, just that one stretch down one highway, you got 6 teams. And, it gets to a point where you hit March or April, and you're like, really? Providence again? We got to play Providence again for the 19th time? Because we're also geographically connected that, do you see a lot of Hartford? Do you see a lot of Providence? And I'll tell you what, go back to, if you're curious, the last game we worked before this pandemic was, I'll never forget, because it was March 11th when everything shut down, because it was 3/11, and I love my 90s music, and so I always appreciate 3/11. And the game before that was a Sunday, and it was against Hartford, and we had, I think we had 4 or 5 major penalties. We had one guy in Hartford leave the bench to start a fight. We had one guy leave the penalty box to start a fight. I mean, just total chaos. Matt Bolesky yelling at fans on the way to, just total chaos. And it was like, man, these teams are tired of seeing each other, And so, that's why I mentioned earlier, it'll be interesting to see some new blood in the mix because, you get 2, 3, 4 years into this and you get some of the same names and faces. And, these AHL guys, they'll stay on one team forever. And, man, they, especially like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Tom Kostopoulos and Tom Sestito were playing there for 10 years. It seems like they're always playing there. And, we see a lot of those teams. And I got to be honest, these fans that come to the Providence Springfield games and they're wearing Bruins jerseys, I have no clue who they're rooting for. I have no idea who they're rooting for. They bought a ticket like everybody else, but I don't know who they're rooting for. No clue.
That's funny. Yeah, we I went to Peoria games, and it's funny because I would see people, back when there was a Blues affiliate, I'd see people in Blackhawks jerseys because that was pretty much halfway between St. Louis and Chicago. And I would think, oh man, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. This guy's gonna come up to me. I'd be a college kid, and I'm just like, this guy's gonna be giving me trouble later. And then we'd be high-fiving me after the Rivermen scored, and I'm like, oh, you're rooting for the Rivermen. Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic.
And for me, like I said, just being able to have conversations with, again, guys like Jake DeBrusk, Dan Heinen, to be a Bruins fan and see, Frank Vetrano and David Pastrnak coming to the penalty box, and you're like, man, I know this kid's going to make it, It's cool. It's cool. And then, again, my first NHL game I ever did was an Islander game. I got a call on a Tuesday. We're totally screwed. We have no PA announcer. Can you get to Brooklyn? I'm like, yeah, I guess. And, and I get there, and out comes Thomas Greiss and Matthew Del Call and a whole bunch of other guys who were in Bridgeport last week. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, if these guys are here, I could be here too. It was sort of that well, you're an AHL guy. I'm an AHL guy. Let's either sink together or swim together, but let's do it together. So it's fun.
So I want to give. I wouldn't have read this if you were still affiliated with the Florida Panthers, but you are not. So it's okay to make fun of them. Jimmy in our YouTube chat says 5,000 people. Dang, that's like a Florida Panthers game. Not bad. Burn.
Yeah, it's funny. You get that a lot from, and you follow a couple of those social media, those Twitter followers. You find a couple like the diehard fans who'd like to keep up with the AHL affiliate, and you always get the screenshots from them. Stop telling us nobody comes to games. Look at all the people here. Trying to stick up for it. You'll never have a problem going to a Hartford Wolfpack game at the XL Center. That place is, and I'll tell you, when you get 3,000 people in a place that big, boy, it's cavernous. It is. Oh boy, it's cavernous. When 3,000 people in our building seems light, but man, you get in some of these big arenas, that's tough. That's especially as a PA out there. How do you get everybody fired up when there's 4 of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I'm sure it's always really interesting when they've got the crowd meter going and it's getting really high and it's like nobody's cheering. There's nobody here. We always say that thing needs to be checked because we're always like, I don't think it's that as loud as it's saying it is.
It's been a while since it's been calibrated.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, Steve, let me ask you as a personal thing, and obviously you've done some Bruins games as well, but Thunderbirds, you've been working there for a couple of years now. To you, what was one of the most exciting things you've seen live and up close? I mean, you said you haven't seen a lot of playoff games, but I'm sure there's been something that stands out in your mind as something really great to see as a PA announcer.
Yeah, I mean, and like, I don't mean to dump all over 2020, but I mean, here we are. I mean, 2019, just to give you a quick run through, we hosted the AHL All-Star game in January, which was one of the most, I mean, again, you talked about Anthony Greco winning that thing. If you look closer at the clip, I'm standing in the box as he's taking off with my phone. My phone, so we did that. Then came the spring and the summer where I also did the Connecticut Sun, who are playing in the playoffs right now. I don't know if they won tonight. It was like a close game, but anyway, they got to the WNBA finals. So I'm on ESPN doing WNBA finals games against the Washington Mystics. Like, that was unbelievable. And then September rolls around and I get an email from the Bruins. And then there I am, Alex Ovechkin is, sitting in the box next to me. So, I mean, 2019 was an unbelievable year. I still look back and I remember in December being like, I don't want this year to end, fully not knowing where we'd be. But I mean,
Blues fans didn't either.
Yeah, I know. I'll give you a good one because this is kind of funny. And I've had a lot of conversations with different guys. But Ovechkin comes to the box. And first of all, he's like the Beatles because the guy never gets a penalty. So like you look behind you and it's just all people with their phones. Again, with their phones, right? I got a picture of Ovechkin in the box. And so Ovechkin's in the box and he's not happy. And he spits a big hockey player loogie. And it lands right on the handle to the door where the penalty operator has to put his hand on it and open the door. And so he kind of looks, now there's like spit. Alex Ovechkin's spit is dripping off this thing. And he's like, this is disgusting. And so Ovechkin kind of like, rolls his eyes a little bit and he goes over, leaves over, he grabs the Gatorade bottle, he sprays it down. He goes over, he grabs a towel, he gets in there and he starts rubbing the thing. And I'm like, good on Ovechkin, man. Like, this guy makes $1 zillion. He's the biggest star on the planet. He could just like tell this guy, put your disgusting hands on my gross spit. But no, he hosed it down, wiped it down. I thought that was one of those things that'll always stick with me. And then if you ever want to Google, you can YouTube Tom Wilson, David Pastrnak. And I know those two, like David Pastrnak got some tweet about Tom Wilson. This was a game going back to November, December. Wilson hits Pastrnak, between the legs with his stick. Pastrnak throws Wilson one right near the bench. All of a sudden, Wilson jumps on Pastrnak, which of course brings everybody's attention. That conversation between Wilson and Pastrnak was one of the most unexpected conversations I've ever had. And I was expecting to hear, you son of a bang, you son of a boom, bleep this, bleep that. And it was like absolutely the total opposite. And like, you're just like, oh my God, what's about to happen right now? These guys get in the penalty box. And they were like, could have been more cordial. So it's like, it's just, you never know. Like, there's something different about hockey guys, I think. They're always really fired up, and trust me, I've seen some angry. And there are times, I got a microphone in between them. I'm like, hey guys, like, I got to announce these penalties. Can you guys stop yelling at each other for 2.5 minutes so I can just read this thing here and then you guys can finish? I'll tell you, the perspective that I have there is so unique. It's fantastic. And again, whether it's center court at a WNBA game at Mohegan Sun Arena in front of a sold-out crowd, I mean, that is an absolute blast. Basketball is so much harder to call. Every out of bounds, every jump ball, everything you got to call. But I'll tell you, the year of 2019 was, and again, starting with that AHL All-Star game, through the WNBA finals, through working Bruins games, was just one of the best stretches I've ever had in my life. It's one of the best stretches I've ever had in my career. And then 2020 came, and here we are. So we'll see what the future brings. But I'll tell you, it was something. It was certainly something.
Yeah, that I tell you what, 2020 sure made all the celebrating for Blues fans come to a screeching halt. It was, okay, I guess we can't go out to bars and still celebrate winning our first cup. So it's been interesting all across the country for sure. We have a couple.
So wait a minute. So let me ask you. So what's the big talking points here for the Blues going into the offseason? What are we talking about? We talking about trades? We got some contracts we have to renew. What are the big talking points out there?
The biggest one right now is Alex Pietrangelo. It was released a couple days ago that apparently the Blues have told him to go ahead and pursue free agency because they can't work out a deal. I will say my personal opinion on it. I think we have until October 9th to see what's going to happen in this organization, and I think the Blues are just exercising that, saying, "Hey, we've done everything we can up to this point. Let's take a break from talking. Come back to us in a couple weeks." I think that's more what it is, but I know a lot of Blues fans would disagree and say that this is the Blues telling Pietrangelo it's time for him to walk. But that's the biggest one. Is the captain going to come back? And if he doesn't, how do you replace his minutes? Was trading Jake Allen worth it? Since that was basically the reason they moved him, was because they wanted to have the cap space to sign Pietrangelo. So that's the big points now. But again, I think we got about 3.5 weeks until October 9th when free agency starts. I think we're going to see some more talks between the two teams for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I think there's a lot of teams that are like that. I think that the free agency is going to be different this year. Spending, I think, is going to be down just because revenue's way down. And, there's a lot of good players that want to get paid. Pietrangelo wants to get paid. Krug wants to get paid. And you do have teams that want to spend. Detroit, all the money in the world to spend, it'll be interesting. Good stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with my
No. I was just going to say we got a couple comments here in the YouTube chat. Hotard12 says he agrees, I guess, with what I just said. Take a break and come back to the table before free agency starts. He says one of his favorite things about going to, I guess he kind of asks, I'm guessing you've never been to Peoria, Illinois, correct, Steve? He's asking if you've ever been to Big Al's in Peoria, and I would understand why your answer is no, because who goes to Peoria when they live on the East Coast? But he says he loves going to Rivermen games and venturing over to Big Al's, which is we'll just call it a gentleman's club up there in Peoria.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought we were talking barbecue or something. But
no.
I didn't know we were going to. All right. Oh, okay. Big Al.
Yes.
All right. Interesting.
And I didn't know that. I had to Google it. Of course, I didn't know what that was.
Okay. Well, look, you can go down to Theodore's in downtown on Worthington Street in Springfield and get some of the best burnt ends you're ever going to have as we try to do our take on barbecue up here in the Northeast. And then you can swing on over to the Mardi Gras and get that'll be the closest thing to Big Al's. And then you can hook a left and a right, and then you'll be right at the Mass Mutual Center to watch some hockey. It'll be perfect. Nice little afternoon.
There you go. I like the idea. I'll make sure. Hotard12 says they do serve barbecue, so I don't know if that's some kind of pun or let's just leave that one alone. But
on plates, I think they do serve it on plates.
Right. That's what it means. Yep, that's what it is. Yep. So again, this was Steve Forni of the Seattle Thunderbirds PA announcer, and hopefully a guy that we're going to
Seattle. Oh,
Seattle. Oh no! I put in my notes so many times. I literally have it like 3 times in here. Don't say Seattle, and I did it.
Don't say Falcons. Those are the 2 no-nos. Yeah,
I was so close. So close. Springfield Thunderbirds. And Steve, again, you talked earlier about how you're a hopeful for the NHL PA, and I think we're all rooting for you here. It was very gracious of you to join the show. From what I've heard from some of the clips I heard on YouTube with you calling it in the background, sounds like you do a great job. Seems like you love your job. So again, I think we're all rooting here for you over here at Let's Go Blues Radio. Why don't you go ahead and let our listeners know where they can find you on social media, anything you might want to promote. I know you said you do some radio work. Let us know how they can get in touch with you and how they can hear you.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks. And I mean, yeah, I'll start by saying, like, if you're in your mid to late 20s and you hate your job and your career and where you're at, and something seems interesting, I don't care if it's radio, cooking, look into it because you just never know where it's going to turn up. And I can't believe where my life has taken me over the last 7-8 years. I was calling junior hockey games in ice cold rinks in the middle of nowhere, Connecticut, on long weekends, 8 games a week, doing play-by-play 6 years ago, and now I'm in the TD Garden, and I don't know how I got there. I'll be honest. So follow your don't be afraid to look into that kind of stuff. I'm on Twitter at sforni413. I usually just kind of mess around. I don't do a ton of stuff, but we are my radio station is part of iHeartRadio. WHYN is our letters there, and on Sundays at noon here locally, I have a sports show. So if you want to talk about how excited we are about Cam Newton, you can certainly tune in and hear that, because we are all of a sudden fired up about Cam Newton.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm in tomorrow at 5 a.m. to host fill in for the host of the political nonsense show, which I just is if you want to be depressed, listen to political radio. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely tune in tomorrow. It'll be really uplifting. And but no, I mean, I'm just a lucky dad who's got the best seat in the house. I mean, really, that's all I do, and I got. I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled. Very blessed. That's about it. So, but thank you, Jeff. And hey, anytime you guys want to hook up, let me know. You get some big news. You get some, I don't know, injuries or guys that intrigue you or something. Let me know. I'm happy to talk, because that's all I do in there in that box between the belly boxes is analyze guys. He stinks. He's good. Blah blah blah. I'll never tell him that, but that's what I do.
Oh yeah, no, I used to be in blues media, and that was what I would do. I would sit up in the box and I would rate every player in my head, and sometimes it would come out loud, and I'd be sitting there going, "You shouldn't say that, because that guy is like way better at hockey than you. So stop saying that."
It's even worse when you say that and his teammates in the penalty box.
Yeah,
he's like, "Hey, believe you." I'm like, "Oops."
Leave Tom Wilson alone.
To yourself. Yeah, keep that to yourself. But,
awesome.
No, this is great.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate it. So I want to have a couple notes here to close up shop. And again, I want to thank Steve for coming on. Again, follow him on Twitter at sforni. That's FORNI 413. 413. Is that what is that? Is that your area code?
Springfield area code 413.
All right, good to know. 314 here in St. Louis, so we're backwards.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
That's interesting.
I like that.
So make sure, everybody, you check out the letsgoblues.com shop for t-shirts and stickers. Subscribe to our show on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen over at letsgobluesradio.com/radio. Give us that 5-star rating on Apple if you feel so inclined. Twitter handles associated with the show. LGB Radio is the show Twitter. Kurt Price, other host of the show, at Kurt Price. Bill Day is at Billy Blue Note. Myself, Jeff Ponder, can be found at jpunter94. Follow Let's Go Blues Radio on Facebook and Instagram as well. Next week, we will have a guest again. Not sure who it's going to be, but the week after that, I know for a fact, Kurt and Bill will be back for a live show as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. First week of October, we will have another live show. That will conclude this episode. So again, Steve, I want to thank you for coming on, and we will probably have you back again, because this was a lot of fun. And again, following your journey to the NHL should be a lot of fun for us as well.
I appreciate it. We'll see. We'll keep you posted. I'm playing with house money at this point, so I mean, we'll keep you posted.
All right. Bet on black. That's what I always say.
That's it. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thank you. On behalf of Bill Day and Kurt Price, I'm Jeff Ponder. And let's go Blues.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Cyanosport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available.
A look at sports.
I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio.
Now take off, hosers.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues.
The Blues are on the ice tonight again. They're rough and tough and got the stuff to win. They'll always get one more, no matter what the score. They are quite a hockey team, my friend.